What is going on today, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today's video is helping you guys build in Smite, because I know this is one of the hardest things to do. Today's will be a lot more general. I'm just going to be talking in general about a certain character, and in a general game, it's going to be nothing specific. I'm not going to go over certain games. It's just going to be on this character. Should I build some sort of damage? Should I build full tank? Should I build some sort of survivability outside of like just protections and health? And I'm just going to kind of go down the list of all the guardians and just talk about kind of what is the best possible idea of a build for that character. So we'll skip Bacchus, because still for now, I don't think he's a support. I think he's going to go more towards solo. You're going to build a damage item probably on him somewhere as a solo laner, because you want to be able to kill, but I don't know for sure. Starting with Ares. For the most part, Ares is a full tank support, unless I will say if you do get ahead, feel free to toss in like a flat pen item, like a Deso with 5 protection items. Oh, and health items on Ares would be phenomenal. And you should go some semblance of a survivability item, whether it's Spirit's Robe, Wingblade, Mantle, something like that. That's not just a true like binding type of damage item or binding type of support defensive item, aura item. Because he doesn't have that mobility. You kind of need that survivability. Ardeo is for sure a god that needs a damage item. She is a dive-oriented god in gameplay and how she needs to be played. You go blink and you need to kill before getting killed. So maybe even 2 with Ardeo, no troll. Athena, very simple, full tank, survivability, 100% through the roof. Her damage is very low. She's got some of the lowest scaling in the game, 50%, 20%. You're not hitting both of these 99% of the time, and then you're never hitting that. So Athena is reliably low damage, so you're not really building any power on her. You want to just build survivability. Cooldown is very important, so feel free to get a lot of cooldown on her. Spirit's Robe, Mantles, Wingblade, stuff like that, phenomenal. But for the most part, you just want to live with Athena. Next up, Atlas. Damage item for sure. 1, maybe 2. Mike and Hurrywin, 2 of the guys that play Atlas the most, always build like 1 or 2 damage items. So Atlas for sure, damage items. You could build just like Glad Shields, Pridwins, Binding, stuff like that. But they do very well with power items. Next up, Bacchus. I would say you should build like a damage item on Bacchus, but there's also like the opposite way to play it, where how Lassus plays it, where it's no true damage item. It's like a Glad Shield, a Pridwin, a Binding, stuff like that, where it's damage in the form of hybrid items or hybrid items, but not like a true damage item. Next up, Kumbhakarna. For sure a damage item. You want to be able to kill somebody who's caught out, and your damage does matter. Very high. Your 3 scales at 35%, which is insane. 2 is another 50%. 1 is 50%, and it's off your auto attack damage too. And then your ult is also 60%. All of them are easy, reliable to hit. Feel free to build more than 1 on Kumbhakarna. Feel free to build 2, because he does use power very well. Serb has not been played in a long time. I think I would build probably 1 damage item on Serb. Something like starter item, Thebes, defense item, maybe then a damage item. If you do get an early lead, Thebes into like a Deso is phenomenal on Serb, but you probably do want 1 damage item on Serb. Next up, Charon. Yes, you want a damage item, but you want it far into the build. Harass items in the early game and cooldown in the early game is the best for Serb, but like a damage item in the late game is always going to be good for him. Cthulhu, not really support. Fafnir, I would say you do not need one on Fafnir. You just need really attack speed, which you get in the form of Shoguns and War Flag or War Banner. So you don't really need one on Fafnir. You can go Deso and you can hard carry games with it, but you really don't need it. Ganesh, kind of in the same vein as Fafnir. You don't need damage items. Just getting cooldowns is going to be very strong. Maybe building like Pridwin or something like that as a damage item. But you really just need to be a full tank on this character. Next up, Geb. Another one. You don't really need a damage item, but as a god, if you want to play like more of a hard carry Geb with Fire Blink, Relic Dagger, stuff like that, you can go a Deso, a Mirrodin, Rod, something like that. But you don't really need one on him. If you have adequate players around you, full defense Geb will be great. Khepri, absolutely not. And build a lot of survivability items. Khepri currently just like Gaia's, Spirit's Robe, Mantles, Wingblades, stuff like that is great on him. Thebes, you do not build power items on him. Kumbha, same thing, survivability items. You want a lot of cooldown on Kumbha. Khepri, you don't really need cooldown, but you want a lot of cooldown on Kumbha because his abilities are not great to say the least. So getting just as many abilities as possible, as many harass abilities as possible, being able to ult as much as you can will be the best way to play him. His scaling is also very, very low. 50%, 50%, 55%. Okay, isn't this crazy though? Why is this scaling at 55%, bro? Like, this instant is 60%, and you can hit multiple people with it. Bacchus, I think, is about the same. Yeah, 60%, and it can hit multiple people. But Kumbha's is 55%. Kuzenbo, yes, 100%. You want to build 1 damage item on him. maybe 2, depending on maybe that 6th item. If you feel like you're tanky enough, the enemy team doesn't really have that much damage, you can go with that 2nd one. But just building like Thebes, Pridwin, Spirit's Robe, Contagion, and then just like Divine Rune, you'll 1v5. Maui, absolutely not really that great at scaling. His 1 does single target damage, his 3 does basically single target damage, and his ult doesn't scale that well. Survivability items, and then somewhat cooldown items. He has pretty low cooldowns anyway. 12 seconds, 10 seconds, 16 is a little high, and then 90 seconds it goes down to. So you don't really need cooldown on Maui, but just tank items so you can get in there, get involved, and not die. Sobek, another one where you don't really need a damage item. He's got pretty low scaling. His abilities are mostly like single target or just really low damage or hard to confirm. You just want to build damage items and survivability items. We literally saw today or yesterday, Thebes into Mantle of Discord. You just want to live on the character. That's what you want to do. Sylvanus, 100% you want a survivability item or 2. That's like Wingblade, Spirit's Robe, like self-tanky items, mantles, stuff like that that can keep Sylvanus alive. Maybe not just true auras that keep you and your allies alive. Do you want to build a damage item? Not really. If you play that Blink style Sylvanus that used to be pretty popular back in the day, 1 damage item on Sylv is pretty phenomenal, but you don't need it. Terra, absolutely. 1 damage item, maybe even sometimes 2 damage items because of how good her damage actually is. She is probably one of the best characters when it comes to building damage because her ult is insane, her 3 is insane, her 2 is insane, her 1's insane for damage. And she also has an ability to hit like everyone on the enemy team. So just like 500 damage here, 500 damage there, 500 damage here across the entire board. It's a huge damage swing. She's also pretty tanky and has a lot of survivability in her kit with healing, protections, dashes. So you don't really need too many self-survivable items. Xing Chen, 100%. This character only really does damage. If you're not able to kill, you're not really doing too much. A defensive style Xing Chen is probably one of the worst Xing Chens in existence. So I would prefer to play him with 1, maybe 2 damage items, maybe even 3 damage items, just so you're truly a threat to the enemy backline. Because as most of you know, Xing Chen is not in a great spot right now. And for the last 2, Yemoja, I would say currently no, you don't need a defense or you don't need a damage item on her. Mostly just playing for self-survivability and keeping her allies alive. I think the most important thing for Yemoja is keeping herself alive because she has permanent heals in the form of auto attacks and in the 2, which doesn't use mana. You have Omi regen, which regens way faster than mana. So just keeping yourself alive in turn allows you to heal up your allies and keep them alive. And then lastly, Ymir, absolutely not. You do not need a damage item. He's got phenomenal scaling. Like, look at the scaling. 70%, 50%, 150%. And then his autos also scale at 200% if you have Frostbite on them. Fortunately, he is so unsafe and so blah, 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 that you don't have an opportunity to build it, because if you do, you will die off cooldown. You want self-survivability items, Wingblade, Spirits, Robes, Mantles, stuff like that. Stuff that keeps yourself tanky. But you want a little bit of aura too, like a Thebes or Cloak or something like that in there. That's the video. A little helpful guide, general guide for all the roles on kind of what you want to itemize for. Also, a little rule of thumb that I like to shoot for is even on the damage dealing characters, you want around 200 protections of each and like 3k health. So try to get around there even with those damage items. If you have like 250 because they only have 1 magical, that's fine. But the general rule of thumb I like to have is at least 200 protections and 3000 health in most of my builds. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace. Doo-doo.